Hey, I wanted to make a video to show how to remove the backgrounds of an image for free using a free program. This program is GIMP, G-I-M-P. I think it stands for Graphical Image Manipulation, something or other. And if you just go to Google and type in GIMP download, you'll find it. When you open up GIMP, you need to have this toolbox. Hopefully it just happens already when you open it up. If not, you'll have to go try to find out how you can get that toolbox to show up. Okay, so why would you want to remove the background of an image? And I've done this before with vehicles. I've done it before with portrait photos, with different garments, buildings, and a lot of times it's because images are great marketing materials, and just like they always say, an image says 1,000 words. The problem is that a lot of times there's certain words that are being said in your images that you don't really want to be said because it's distracting and it takes away from the focus of what you're trying to convey using an image. For example, I've had people give me images of their branded vehicles before, and the purpose of showing images of branded vehicles, let's say you've got a fleet of vehicles with your company's name on it, the whole purpose of that is to show that you are a professional corporation or a professional company, and you can come and provide service in a location for where your customer is at. If you have an image with your fleet of vehicles in it, and then there's a bunch of other stuff in the background, it's kind of distracting. Maybe it's not like your actual business that you're showing in the background. It's just a bunch of other businesses on a street or something like that. That's distracting. It takes away. So I see it a lot in a lot of different images. And there's a reason you'd want to get rid of the backgrounds in images, especially when you're showing them on a website or in any sort of marketing materials. So how do we do that? How do we do it easy and for free? I'm going to use this image over here of a garment, and this is actually not the best example because the people that made this image put a rug in the background, a carpet, and it's very neutral, and there's nothing distracting in the background. So, but I need an example to make this video with, so here it is. First I'm going to copy it so that I don't overwrite the original. I'll paste it. Now I've got one that has the word copy at the end of the title, of the file title. I'm going to drag this over onto my GIMP program. The first tool I'm going to choose is this one called a fuzzy select tool. And what this does is it chooses all the same colored pixels in a color region, or all the same colored pixels that are touching each other. So if I just click on a pixel, it's going to choose all the other little pixels that are about the same color that are touching each other. Now, here's a trick. What you want to do is hold down and drag, and then what you do is you choose a whole bunch of different colored pixels. You can see if you look in this area over here where these shadowy pixels are, if I just go like this, it's not going to get even close to there. If I just go like this, that got some of those. But if I get a nice big sample of similarly colored pixels, it gets very close and it even gets in there. But notice it can't break over this barrier of all these really dark pixels from the sweatshirt. It's just selecting all this area up here. So what I'm going to do is hold down the shift button, and I'm going to drag over down here too. And so now that I've selected all these different pixels in this rug in the background, I'm going to hit the delete button, and I deleted it. So that's pretty good. Now if you're a real stickler and sometimes you've got an image, I guess if you've gotten to the point where you've actually drug it into a photo image software, you probably care enough to try to make it a pretty good version. So let's I'm trying to zoom in here. How about I select what am I doing? Escape. Okay. I held down Control and I zoom in with my mouse wheel. I don't know why it didn't let me do it for a second there. It must have had something selected. But if you're a real stickler, and you probably are if you've gotten to the point where you actually care enough to try to remove the pixels of a background of an image, you probably want to make it as perfect as possible. So what you could do is maybe you need to come in here and do a little cleanup work. You can get in there and you can use this little lasso tool. So instead of being a square select or a elliptical select, you can just select nice little areas and get kind of surgical with it. And delete. Another thing you could do, I mean, you could keep going with your fuzzy select tool and try to, get more regions here, but that gets pretty tedious. Another tool you could use is this other tool over here that also selects colors, called Select by Color tool. But the thing that's tricky about this is that it selects every single pixel that's the same color in the whole entire image. And that can be dangerous for you if I'm not really sure why all of a sudden on this. It wasn't letting me zoom in or out. Okay, now that I can zoom in or out again. Let's say I'm trying to choose all these light colored pixels right here, and I want to delete those because I don't want them around the perimeter of my foreground here. Just got to be real careful. Because not only are you going to select all the same colored pixels over here, they're going to select them everywhere. And I'm selecting them in my logo on this shirt here. And so if I come back here later and start painting, selecting those pixels, start trying to paint them the same color as like the background, let's say, or just try to delete them, I'm also going to delete them all in here. And pretty soon you're going to start having a pretty bad looking image when you keep deleting all those other pixels too. So I do want to select these pixels. I'm going to hold down Shift. I'm going to select these other pixels, these are light pixels too, and I will select the background, the white background. Maybe I'll even get a little bit closer to, and I'll start selecting these. I'm really getting in there. Okay. Now that I chose all those pixels there, I'm going to paint them. I want to paint them a certain color. And I'm not going to paint them white. I could, but I'm not going to. You could, if you're getting this far and learning this, and you want really everything all the same in your background. The reason I'm not going to is because just doing this with examples like portraits, people, when you try to cut people out as the foreground away from a background, most people have hair, and even when they're so considerate as to take their photo in front of a very light colored background, which makes your job a lot easier when it's all the same colored background, it's light, that's great. But the problem is when people have hair, they have all these strands of hair, and they all become little loops and little windows into the background that they took their photo in front of. There's just no way getting around that. And if you're trying to delete all those little light colored pixels from the highlights and natural highlights in their hair, and it gets so tedious, time consuming, and impossible. What I've finally compromised and resorted to doing is just, I usually make like a little light halo around my images, which looks deliberate and still looks professional. It doesn't have these little weird, jagged, little, starlight, weird pixels every once in a while around the perimeter that is distracting. So it looks deliberate. It doesn't look bad, in my opinion, and it works. So that's what I do nowadays. Usually, when I cut something out of the background, is just try to blend it into kind of a wispy little halo around here, And so that's what I'm going to do. You could do it differently. You could select all these little straggly pixels that we've got to the point where we've gotten 99% of the carpet out of here, and you could just paint them white also. Maybe you want to do that. I'm going to do something different though. So I'm going to select a color here, and I'm going to zoom in, and the color I'm going to select, I'm going to use this little eyedropper here, and I'll probably just select one of these really neutral light colored pixels over here, like this one. Now I'm going to get my paintbrush out. Here's a paintbrush tool. You can see the size of my paintbrush tool. It's pretty small, and that's good, because otherwise, since I use this color select tool, I've also, highlighted all these similarly colored pixels in other places. If I had a gigantic paintbrush tip and I tried to just paint everything real quick, every selected pixel, I would also, of course, get these pixels in here that I don't want to paint. So that's why I chose a small paintbrush tip, so I can be a little more surgical and just get around the perimeter here. So that's what I'm going to do. I've selected my color, and now I'll only be able to paint the pixels that I have selected. So that's why you are not seeing me paint this sweatshirt. This sweatshirt it's mostly black or dark colored materials, and so when I was selecting all those light colored pixels, of course it wasn't going to select the dark colored pixels on the sweatshirt. And I'm just kind of trying to add a little shadow line around this whole thing. Just something a little neutral light color that can kind of blend in, can maybe kind of help make this garment pop a little bit. And at the same time, I'm not going to have these, little, every once in a while, little Starfire white pixel that just pops out and makes it obvious that someone did kind of an unprofessional job of getting rid of a background, and it's distracting. That's what we're always trying to do with marketing images, is focus that 1,000. They say a picture tells a 1,000 words. We're trying to focus those words into a specific branding image or a specific merchandising image, something that's going to accomplish a marketing goal. In this case, what we want is for someone to see this garment on a website and focus in on whether or not they like the garment, whether or not they think they would look good in it, or the person that they're considering buying it for would look good in it. We don't want to have stuff like a bookshelf in the background, or for someone to say, I wonder whose house or what building that was photographed in. I wonder what's on that bookshelf back there. We don't want any of these stray distraction thoughts popping into someone's head. All we want them to do is to focus on our objective of merchandising, and just for them to think about this one garment and how it looks, and then so they can decide yay or nay on whether or not they want to buy it. So that's why we get rid of a lot of the distractions in an image. Okay, so I painted this halo, this border, whatever you want to call it, around here. I'm going to select none. I want to kind of zoom in and see how it looks now. Okay, I like this. It looks like I've gotten rid of almost all the really light and strange, out of place pixels, colors out of here. But you can see now there's this jagged, pixely edge around the garment. Now, if I look at this garment, this image at 100%, most of that kind of goes away. You can't really tell. But the problem you gotta consider is that so many times when you upload images to the internet these days, people look at it on their mobile devices and they can zoom in and out really easily. Or if it's in some sort of like WordPress, WooCommerce shopping cart, there might be a plugin that makes it so that when a person mouses over a particular thumbnail, that all of a sudden it shows the image 200-300% larger. So that's when these little imperfections will really become more apparent. And again, if you've gotten to the point where you're actually getting a photo editing software and learning how to manipulate pixels at that level, you probably care enough to do this as smooth and professional looking as possible. Okay, so what I consider the last step here would be to use this blur sharpen tool. It looks like this droplet over here, and I want to keep this small circle here. I don't want to have this huge thing because then I'm going to blur areas like over here. I don't want to do that. I just want to blur the perimeter with this gray color that I made. I just want to take the jagged boundary and make it look like it's been kind of anti-aliased on here. You may want to take 1, 2, 3 passes in some of these areas, get rid of the jaggedness. You're just kind of trying to do like the soap opera Vaseline on the lens effect, the soft flashback, smooth look. And smooth out the edges. Okay, and one last thing I noticed on here, looks like there's a piece of lint or two that just kind of see a couple white specks, which, once again, that's the sort of thing that distracts me, and I don't want distractions in my marketing materials. I want to have a focus. I want to have a goal. So what I'm going to do is take my color select tool again. I'm going to zoom in to what I think looks like a little piece of lint that got caught in here. And I'm going to highlight those pixels. And then I'm going to choose a color. Get out the eyedropper again. I'm going to choose a pixel nearby that is dark. And then I'm going to get the paintbrush back out. And I'm going to paint over those selected, what I consider lint colored colored areas. I do not know why suddenly when I'm doing this web tutorial that I'm having so many problems with zooming in and out, but I probably changed some setting. Okay, and here's one of those situations again where I got to be careful. And I want to paint this, but maybe my paintbrush is too large, so here is how you can change that, adjust it. That's making it much larger. I'm going to make it much smaller. There we go. You can see I'm actually down to the point where my paintbrush is 1 pixel. So, okay, I feel like that got rid of the linty looking areas, and now I'm going to select none again, get rid of those lines so I can take a look at this image. I want to view it 100%. Okay, that looks good to me. If it's you, what you might want to do is go ahead, instead of just having this halo, maybe you want to make the whole entire background the same color. Or you could have done, like I was saying earlier, make it all white. So instead you would have come by, instead of with this gray, you would have just chosen white and painted it all around there. And then blended it in. That would have been good too. So it's a matter of preference. I'm going to overwrite the JPEG. I grabbed a JPEG from the Windows Explorer and drug it in here. I'm going to just overwrite that same JPEG. The website I'm going to upload this to has a plugin. It's a WordPress thing, so it's got a plugin that compresses images for me, so I'm not going to compress them in here. I'm just going to export it 100%. And you can see over here, so here was the original image. We had this rug. Once again, not a great example because this was a nice neutral thing anyway, but here is the new version that I pulled we deleted the background out and manipulated some pixels. I'm going to crop it even a little bit more here so that I can again pull some more focus. What I want to do is I just want someone to take a look at this and just think about the garment and themselves, or just think about the garment and a person they want to buy the garment for. I don't want them to think about any other distraction, and I think that this is getting closer to that goal there. So I'll save that. Now I've got an image. I can upload this to the shopping cart on the website, and I think it's going to accomplish a little bit better than if there had been some distractions in the background. Okay, well, that's that. Thanks for watching.